Well, thanks for giving a round of applause for being from Boston. I hope at the end we come away with some nice takeaways here.
Unless you're a Pats fan.
Well, we'll talk later. Now, a really quick story on that front. So I am a Pats fan, and you guys can throw stuff at me throughout the presentation. So I was just at a wedding on Saturday with one of our best family friends, and it was up here in Toronto, over at the AGO, beautiful area, and his wife, or now wife, is from here. And when he flew to Toronto to ask her father if he could marry his daughter, he said yes, but only with one contention, is you have to become a Bills fan. And he was like, done, I'm in. And at that point onward, he's like, sure, you can marry my daughter. And here we are now. Thank God, otherwise, I wouldn't get to experience this awesome city throughout the weekend. And thanks again for having me here. So I am Greg. I work over at HubSpot. I've been there for a little over 4.5 years now. My background is in engineering, and then I did a little bit of sales, and now I've been helping run the HubSpot for Startups program for the last 1.5 years or so. And so getting to learn from really thousands of startups all around the world as to what is working, what's not working, and usually what we find is that you guys in these rooms are awesome at building the best products, services, goods, whatever it may be. But I don't know if you guys experience this, and maybe by a quick show of hands, who struggles when it comes to acquiring customers? It's what we find is really the number one difficulty for most startups at an early onset. And by show of hands, who here as well, who here is in sales? Or maybe wears a sales hat inside their company. Okay. How about marketing, or wears a marketing hat? How about engineering? Okay, who's just like, yes, free lunch? Okay, cool. Well, throughout today's conversation, we are going to talk about growing and scaling your customer acquisition and retention. And the 5 key components to this are team and culture, systems and process. I am a huge nerd, and if I had my glasses, I'd be pushing them up in this section right here. And then marketing, sales, and customers. And we're going to come up with this concept of a flywheel today. Who's ever heard of a flywheel? Okay. I'm going to call on you guys when we get to that point so we can articulate it to the rest of the group. This section right here might seem a little fluffy, but I promise you it's not. Team and culture is the backbone to actually creating a successful company and being able to grow and scale your acquisition and retention of your customers. And that's where we're going to start today. This is being recorded, so you may not have to take notes, or feel free to continue to do whatever it is that you're working on today as well. But to start things off, I'm going to paraphrase our 2 co-founders, Brian Halligan and Dharmesh Shah. Brian formerly was in venture capital, and prior to venture capital had led a little software company to upwards of $1 billion in revenue. He started off as a BDR in entry-level sales and made his way up to be the VP of all international sales at the company. And what he says, right after starting HubSpot and fast-forwarding 12 years from then, which is today, that today it's never been easier to start a company. HubSpot's startup costs back in 2006 were about $200,000. You had to raise VC money. Otherwise, you're just basically taking money out of your pocket and saying, I don't know if this is going to work, going to spend a lot of money. Today, the startup costs are right around $2,000 to actually incorporate and get things going. It's never been easier. On the flip side, it's actually never been harder to scale a company. Every single day, I'd imagine a new competitor or multiple new competitors in your space are popping up. Because it's never been easier. How do we cut through the noise? How do we raise our brand, our company, our mission above the noise? That's what we'll talk about today. So starting off in team and culture, just to give you a quick definition of what company culture is, it's the personality of your company. Who has a company culture that they are proud of right now? Anybody care to share what you think your culture is? What do you think? What would you say? What defines your company culture?
We're all about revolutionizing the way companies are actually leveraging the people in it. So we want to unlock the full potential of people. And it has nothing to do with profit. So of course we've got to make a buck, but we're not there for that. And that's why I feel attached to it.
I think that's a really strong mission. That's what we'll talk about in just a second. I'll give you one quick story of a startup down in Puerto Rico that I was working with really closely. They do like Airbnb management. So basically they have all the Airbnb listers. They outsource the cleaning, the locks, all that stuff to make their lives a lot easier. And what they said is, we want our company culture to be that of a family. And I go, that's awesome. How do you do it? Every single morning in their company in Slack, everybody says good morning. Right? And I'm like, well, that's awesome today, and you have 5 employees. What happens when you get to 30 employees? How do you keep that family culture? Well, Slack, right? So as we talk about our systems and process, which we'll get to in a little bit, think about how these systems and process can actually enable you to scale these communications. So it is the environment in which your employees work, but I also think this is arguably one of the strongest aspects to recruiting talent, and then also having customers resonate with whatever it is your mission may be. So what great products are to acquiring customers, great cultures are to acquiring talent, which is why this is where it may be a little fluffy to talk about, but I promise you, you'll hit a point in your startup and in your business where you're like, how do we hire the best people? Because if you don't hire the best people, your product's not going to be the best, your sales aren't going to be the best, your marketing's not going to be the best, which will make it really hard to acquire customers. So the top of the funnel for your own company actually starts here, which is why we talk about culture. And in the hierarchy, and you'll see a lot of funnels today. This is like one of my favorite things. I freaking love funnels because they're measurable in most cases. But the company is what basically encapsulates the culture. Your company, the only difference between a company and a living person is the right to vote for government officials, other than breathing and living, right? But the rights of a company are actually exactly that of an individual, other than voting for who you want to put into office. So the culture of your company actually helps you recruit more people to build valuable teams, which gives you a really awesome place to work. So there should be one more line here that's me or you that enables you guys to have a great team, which leads to great recruiting, to have a great culture, and be a great company. This is why we're talking about it to start things off, where mission does matter. And I'll give you a quick example of this. HubSpot's company mission, and we now have about 2,000 employees around the world, hasn't changed in 12 years. Every single employee we bring in, every company that we work with, we try to articulate it as best as we can. And it's one really simple sentence. Our mission is to help organizations grow. And what we now do with our startup program is, we were basically this little startup. It was just 2 of us a year and a half ago. Now we have 12 people on our team. So we said we want to have our own little team mission. So our mission is to help startups grow. This is something that as we hire more people and bring more people onto the team, and also talk to more partners and startups and more people in the ecosystem, like, oh, I get it. I get it. And it's very easy for us to say, yes, we're in alignment here, or no, we're not. And if we're not, it probably doesn't make sense to bring that employee in, to bring that partner in, to bring a client in. This is the backbone of what we believe, which also leads us to core values here. Does anybody have core values for their company yet? And I promise you this is directly correlated to customer acquisition. For us, when Kim and I started HubSpot for Startups together, we said we have to come up with our code for how we work well together. Who here's had conflict with their teammates yet? It sucks. Do you have a framework for dealing with conflict, or does that employee no longer work with you?
Well, it's weird, but we've been through it.
Yeah. The number one reason why startups fail is founder conflict. I've experienced it 2 or 3 times, which stinks. And so what we came up with was a framework of core values that made it so that if we were ever in conflict, we'd come back to these, discuss them, and then figure out a way to move forward. And I'm not happy to admit this, but there was a time when Kim said to me, Greg, I can't work like this anymore. It feels like we're always one-upping each other. I'm reading this book. Well, I'm reading this book. Well, I did this. Well, I did that. And it was a really destructive environment for creating something that we really cared about, our mission of helping startups grow. So we put these things in place, like honest transparency. And with that, Kim gave me the feedback of saying, Greg, here's why I can't work with you. And because I signed into this as her teammate, a part of a program or a part of a startup, I have to respect that, which then allowed us to move past the conflict and come up with some resolutions. Now we have 12 people on our team. And every time we bring a new person in, we run them through our values and say, is there anything you'd like to change? Christian added, lead with compassion. Before looking outward, first look inward. Now, anytime we feel like we need to move faster, because every startup in the world wants to move faster, we also slow down and say, is this really what we want to do? And then we discuss it. So I think it's really important to mention these two aspects, mission and values, before jumping into acquisition, because the people are everything. Your team is going to help you acquire more customers. This is the foundation of building a great customer acquisition engine. Any questions on that so far? Missions, values, company culture. That was the one fluffy part, I promise. And it really is. It's so true. I would really think about writing down your values now and having everybody agree upon them. It will make you have a real sense of mission together as a team, which will then allow you to give purpose to the customers that you will hopefully be serving. So the next part, systems and process. This is that growth flywheel, that flywheel we were alluding to a little while ago. Can you give me a little definition of what you think the flywheel is?
It's a wheel that creates momentum. So the more or the faster you spin it, the more you try to spin it, the faster it goes and it keeps going.
It's a perfect description. So I'm going to give one little anecdote before talking about the flywheel in our sense today. This is Amazon's growth flywheel. What Amazon started out with is Jeff Bezos said, I'm going to start the e-commerce company, but I can only start in one spot. The place he decided to start was books, because books have the most titles per any vertical out there. They have the most SKUs, unique titles, against any other industry. So he said, okay, there's 3 million books in the world. If I can get all 3 million of those books and list them out some way or somewhere, customers are going to be able to find any book that they want, and they'll always come to Amazon. Leads to a great customer experience, which leads to traffic, people actually coming to Amazon to find books, which then leads to more people wanting to list books that they're trying to sell. You read a book, it sits on your shelf, it adds no value to you unless if you like to have books, sell it back, which leads to more selection, which leads to better customer experience, which leads to more traffic, and so on and so forth. Then what they did is they said, let's take the next selection of most itemized SKUs, CDs, music. They started listing CDs and DVDs. And it just made this growth flywheel just spin faster and faster and faster and faster. And then they said, let's lower the cost, let's lower the price to make it go faster and faster and faster. And in 2015, Amazon every second was doing $3,500 in revenue. Every second. Just by having the best customer experience and a flywheel that moved really fast. For most of our businesses, we're not like Amazon. And our flywheel is a revolution of marketing, sales, and customers. So imagine if your customer delight really sucked. You could do awesome marketing and get people to purchase something, but those customers aren't going to help you do any marketing. They're not going to talk to any more people that look like your target persona. Boom, a stake right into the flywheel, right? That thing's moving really fast and then something just stops it. That's not good for our business. That doesn't mean everything has to be perfect. Growth is not going from wrong to right. It's going from wrong to a little less wrong with each iteration of your business, which is why we're going to talk about marketing, sales, and customer success. Which then leads us a little bit to this. I would say that this is what is broken today. A lot of businesses think, I need to do marketing really well to get more sales, to get more customers. I would argue that today's modern funnel actually looks a lot like this. Who has customers today? Have those customers referred you any new customers? Almost everybody. Are you talking to your customers? Are you asking them to refer you to more people that might be a good fit? In almost all cases, startups aren't doing this very well. So I have a little side business just to be a little bit closer to startups. I love building things, as I mentioned earlier. And it's this little necklace company. And what I do at night is I create content that educates people on the positive molecules in your body, which leads people to find me and then hopefully buy the necklace. And then what I do is I handwrite a note every single time. Right now, at least until it's not scalable. And that experience that the customer gets right when they get it is something that they turn to their family members on or friends on and say, look at what this company just did. Almost every single customer I've gotten has referred another customer, which is now allowing my growth to start going like this because I'm tapping into arguably the biggest subset of your sales and marketing funnel today. If you're not spending time with your customers, you have to. Marketing is probably about 25%, 35% of new acquisition, and I would say sales might be 20% as well. This is really early on where you might want to be spending your time, because if you don't have customers, that's okay. You got to figure out a way to get them. Any questions? Yeah.
So in these notes, does the content ever deliberately ask the customers to refer somebody else, or you just
Maybe.
thank you?
It might be something that you can do.
Situation.
Oh, in my situation, no, it doesn't. But what I do after I write that handwritten note, so it gets delivered, I actually have an automated email go out 2 weeks later, say, how do you like your necklace? Do you mind posting a picture on Instagram and tagging us? Which now creates this flywheel, right? Starts to pick up a little bit, which we'll get to in a little bit. Social, I think, is a huge aspect to any B2B or B2C business today. But the reason why it's so important, and the data here talks about information that people rely on when making purchasing decisions. And this is across all different job functions in a business. Look at how little influence a salesperson has today. Who likes being sold to? Good, nobody? Then why the hell are we selling to our end customers? We have to add value. And the way of adding value is if the data says that about 60% of high-level executives and upwards of 50% of individual contributors rely on word of mouth to make purchasing decisions, why aren't we getting more word of mouth in front of them? Crazy. The second is customer references. Who here on their website has testimonials? Who has case studies? Who doesn't have either of those? That's okay. But this is low-hanging fruit right now. Take your happiest customers and put them in front of what your target demographic may actually look like. Because guess what happens, and this is where I'm going to get a little excited if you can't tell already, is the best experience you can create is a, oh my God, that's me moment. If I come to your website and have no idea what you are, but I did a Google search for, house cleaning in Toronto, and I find iRestify, or maybe corporate cleaning, whatever it may be, and I land on it, and it basically looks exactly like me, man, woman, maybe director of a business or something like that, and I just go, oh, this is talking exactly my language. But when we actually pull up our websites real quick, and not to beat anybody up, but maybe just, this is actually pretty good, level jump. Who is our character? Right? Every website, every marketing, every sales, every customer success journey should be revolving around that end target persona, not us as a business. What's great is now you're already talking about an underlying pain for people at this point. Be a sales enablement hero. If I were in sales enablement and my sales enablement for my company sucks, I want to be a hero. You're already talking to me a little bit, right? And now accelerate or measure effectiveness of your sales. What I see so many times in startups is it's all about me, 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 me. Let's see if we can pull up any other examples. Let's do TypeSift if it's okay. That's you, okay. And I know you said earlier it's not great.
It's being redone as we speak.
So maybe collectively as a group right here, using that information that we were talking about of customer references and people really wanted to see just like them and maybe their own pain. Because do people buy off pain? I suck at sales enablement. I need something to help me. What's your business do?
Build custom reports without the wait.
Without the wait. And what's the pain that your customer has?
Waiting on IT or waiting for data or just basically waiting around because they need something they can't get it.
Okay, so if this is TypeSift helping small businesses make big decisions,
Yeah, that doesn't work.
so what would we do differently?
I'd probably get rid of that whole tagline and just in big bold letters say build custom reports without the wait.
Sounds great, right? Because guess what? We're now talking to this potential target audience. It's not about us anymore. It's about them. And then what we can do is start putting calls to actions or maybe videos like these folks had, or an image here. A video testimonial might be perfect right here, or have a face of a potential target audience. HubSpot used to not do a very good job of this, but now I recently went to our homepage the other day, and it actually works a lot better. The story resonates with whoever's coming by. All systems grow. Software to fuel your growth and build deeper relationships. We have an underlying pain in here now. If we were to look at this last year, I'd say HubSpot didn't do a very good job. And now we have a picture of maybe a marketer, maybe a salesperson, maybe a startup. Maybe it changes based upon who's looking at it because we know who it is, right? So it all comes back to that underlying theme of who are we talking to and then how are we talking to them. Now, how the heck do we actually create the systems and process to actually grow our business, right? Who here is using a CRM? Who here is not using a CRM like Google Sheets or Excel? Okay. Who here has an internal wiki for their team? Who here doesn't have an internal wiki or collaboration vehicle for their team? Okay. These are the systems and processes that we're talking about in order to grow and scale. I'll share one quick story. HubSpot now has 2,000 employees. HubSpot for Startups has 12 of those. We have 8 global offices, and all of those offices in some way, shape, or form interact with HubSpot for Startups. Do you think those offices or those employees in Singapore, in Sydney, and in Japan have any idea what's in my brain? Then why am I keeping it up there? Right? This is an internal system and process that I have to get the documentation out so everybody else can feed off of it. It's the same way with sales, same way with marketing. Okay? So the first challenge that I would have for most of the businesses that you guys are working on is how do we define a sales process? Who here has more than 5 steps in a sales process? How many, can we walk through it real quick? Like, what is the journey that a customer has with you guys? And even from your experience, if you can walk us through it.
Are we talking about HubSpot or just they land on the page? Because if they land on the page, it's 2 steps.
Let's talk about your sales process.
Okay.
What do you do?
We use HubSpot, sequences.
Okay, so you email somebody cold.
Cold email.
Then what?
We trigger responses within, it's a 42-day cycle, so we'll hit them 5 times.
Okay, so what action do we want somebody to take? You email them, then what?
We email them and then we track sort of what they're doing. So we track if they open it, if they close it.
They open it, then what?
We hope that they click on the link, so we incentivize them with a little bit personalized coupon.
So they click it, then what?
They get taken here.
To your homepage, then what?
They home cleaning, go to home cleaning,
Okay, then what?
fill out the information, check out now, and then good to go.
Okay, so really the sales process is active reach out, hope they take an action, come in, request a cleaning, and pay.
Yeah.
So now we've dumbed it down to its most minimum viable process. What we see a lot of startups have, and some of those companies that I was working down with in Puerto Rico were like, okay, I'm going to reach out, and then I'm going to maybe email them in 3 days after that, and then I'm going to call them, and then I don't know what happens next, and maybe they want to learn about my product, which I haven't really told them anything about yet, and then we'll have a meeting, and then we'll do a demo, and then we'll have negotiations. It's like, dude, you're complicating your whole system. The whole point to building a scalable and repeatable sales process is to keep it as simple as possible, get it out of your head so your team and everybody else can do it the same way. So, step 1, document the process. With our partnerships, and this might be an example as to why I'm even here. Shane and I had communicated. He said, Greg, I'm interested in HubSpot for Startups for all you guys. I said, great, Shane, do you mind applying? He filled out a form. He said, let's set up a call where we can talk about what you guys do at DMZ. Here I learn about the business goals, all about you guys, what you guys are trying to accomplish, maybe some of the challenges you have. I said, great, do you mind asking some of the startups what areas that we can help with most? Yeah, no problem. And then we either approve or don't approve. This was our partnership process. We had to write it down, document it, because now we have about 6 people on the team doing the same stuff all around the world. If it's in my head, they can't do it. And then we talk about it. So we literally went to a whiteboard and said, guys, what do we think about this? And people will poke holes in it. Because if it's something that I believe, but everybody else on my team doesn't agree with it, what good is a process? It's not scalable. It's not repeatable. And then you got to get it out of your head and into some sort of technology. And in this case, applied, explore, feedback, approved, not approved. Now we took what we had on a whiteboard and actually put it into a technology that we can start measuring, tracking and analyzing. How many emails does it take to actually get a meeting booked? How many meetings does it take to have a demo? How many demos does it take for somebody to purchase? Because when we talk about these metrics, if you know the numbers, you can then figure out and reverse engineer what you need to do at the top to get your money coming in at the bottom. That's what you're doing now, right? Do you know how many people you have to call in order to get a customer?
No.
We'll talk about that, because you should. Any questions on early onsets of sales? Systems, process, technology, getting it out of your head. How are we doing so far? This guy from Boston has a lot of energy.
So you guys, if you guys have that simplified process, like it's the sales operating procedure, do you guys have that in your wiki and you guys keep that up and everything?
That's right. That's exactly right. So now my team, we're going to go from 6 people to about 15 people next year.
Yeah.
I can't train everybody.
Yeah.
So what I've done is I've written down all the details in every single step that we all agreed upon who's on the team today. And then we put it on a wiki, so it's documented. So any new person, we say, read all of these before you ask us any questions. Now let's walk through all of them.
So people don't read, like, problems you've seen with wiki, no one keeps it up to date and no one reads it. So like, how do your team make sure?
We hold each other accountable.
Okay.
Because you have to keep it up to date. You have to make sure it's fresh. Otherwise, you will hit a point in your company that you cannot grow any faster than you are today. You will not be able to, you will hit a threshold where you cannot get past. Systems debt.
Yeah.
So it might be worth the time up front to make sure everything's written down the right way, so as you bring more people on, mission, values, systems, process, for all of these things, you'll hit a good spot. It's a great question, though. Anything else here? And we can do some one-on-ones either after this and or virtually this week or next week, and try to like dissect what's happening in your business to make sure that this is its easiest path. Cool. So we'll jump into marketing. And this is really that beginning of the flywheel, right? Who here is doing any marketing today? Okay. Who here is not doing marketing today? Okay. What I believe marketing is just getting the eyeballs to find you, right? There's things like social media today. There's things like your website today. There's advertisements today. There's so many ways to get impressions on your brand. But then what do we want people to actually do? This is the very beginning of the experience that will lead eventually into sales. So in its most simplistic funnel, marketing is driving traffic, getting people to convert somehow, and then nurturing those people to hopefully drive a sales behavior. Really simple. So let's keep it simple. There's a lot of ways to get traffic. There's a lot of ways to convert people, and there are a lot of ways to nurture people. Let's just try to start it with its most simplistic form so that we can make it more complex as we go. If there's one takeaway from today's discussion, I think that this is probably it. We should interchange good content with great content, but the growth formula for marketing is great content in the right format in the right channel. To give you an example of what great content looks like, things like useful tips and tricks, how-tos, educational learnings, maybe controversial posts that start spinning up a lot of things that people want to debate, because guess what? It all comes back to your company. Challenging the status quo. And the format, I'd say that this is probably the hardest part. The content conceptually is not that hard to come up with. It's hard to create it. But to format it is difficult, whether it's in text like blogging or social posts, video, imagery, infographics, quizzes, white papers, or even calculators. In my opinion, calculators are a golden asset. And what I mean by that is what we learned with HubSpot using a little tool called Hotjar, which tracks where people click and what they do on your website. We noticed that people coming by HubSpot for startups, about 2 out of every 5 people were going immediately to the pricing section because they want to know what it cost. We didn't make it easy for them to understand what the pricing was. So we said, slow down for 1 second. Let's put a little form together. Doesn't have to be beautiful. That they get to select their products that they want, and then it spits out what their price is. And then let's put a little apply button right underneath it. That made our applications jump about 75%, believe it or not, because people weren't just taking an action, and then leaving. Because what we were doing was adding value, all about the customer. And then the channel. If you're an e-commerce business today, if you're not playing in the Amazon and Etsy world, or if your company could fit into that, you should be. But you're also missing huge opportunity if your website doesn't currently have live chat, Google search, social media. I think social media is still the lowest hanging fruit out there, period. That's for me what I'm experiencing with B2B and B2C with this, like my little piece of jewelry. It's all driven off social behavior because it's that validation, that proof. And when other people see it, oh, that's me, or I want that to be me, right? Any questions on this? Great content in the right format, in the right channel, will lead to growth. And then I think just a comparison of what happens in 2000, or what happened in 2000 versus today, the old playbook of marketing might be a little bit different, right? You would maybe go to an event, get business cards, call those people, email those people, call those people, email those people, maybe send them a contract that they have to sign and fax back. In today's world, everything's basically done through this, both B2B and B2C. People are Google searching and doing 95% of their research before ever contacting your company. 95% of the research happens before there's ever a human interaction. That's for both B2C and B2B. People want to live chat. Both customers want to ask you questions about how they can become better. People that are interested in buying are asking questions, and people that are in the marketing stage of awareness are just like, how do I do this? Live chat is the easiest way to talk to your folks and then make it easy for people to pay. Both B2B and B2C transactions usually need to take place. The stages kind of follow this: awareness, acquisition, activation, revenue, retention, and then how do we talk to those customers to get more? Retargeting is like basically the new marketing automation today. Is anybody doing retargeting ads or anything like that? Are they working? So-so? That'll be something we should probably talk about too. Retargeting is like this amazing landscape that's underutilized right now. And then pick your social channels. I would say pick one or two and do those really well. If you try to do too many, you probably won't do any of them well. For most businesses, B2B, I'd say LinkedIn, Twitter are your two best avenues. For B2C, I would say Instagram, Twitter, maybe Facebook. But do one or two and do them really well. Because you have to match the way that you market to the way that people are actually researching and buying. Right? So pulling up that website as an example one more time, as people come by your website and they're looking for more information, whether or not you're funneling them one way or another, or maybe learn about this could be controversial in a way. Learn what cleaning people are actually doing in your home when you're not there. You got to encourage people to take the next step, whether it's on your website or social media in some capacity. Have to match the way people are shopping and buying to the experience that you're putting in front of them. It's hard. All of this is easier said than done. But that's the whole point of growth, is it's not going from wrong to right. With every little tweak, it's going from wrong to a little less wrong. So with us, what we started to do is after somebody applied for HubSpot for Startups, we said, okay, do you want to live chat with us if you have any questions? Do you want to call us, or do you want to schedule a meeting? Just put whatever experience in front of people and let them self-select. So having live chat on your website and a demo and a phone number and a contact us form gives people that freedom to do whatever it is they want. We have to give people the options. Any questions on the marketing stuff at this point? We can go through the sales and customers fairly quickly and then maybe try to use your guys' websites as examples so that we can walk away with some tangible assets here. But with sales, and we can dive a little bit deeper, I think this is the hot topic of these prospecting, engaging, and close. You could basically do a talk for 60 minutes on each of these sections alone. Sales is really hard. It's a little uncomfortable at some points. You have to challenge people at most points. And you have to get them to think a little bit differently about the way they're already doing it. You have to talk to the right people, because if you're calling what we call negative personas, meaning somebody that looks like a great fit but really doesn't ever pay anything, you're going to waste a lot of your time. Who here has identified any negative personas? Were you guys spending time with those folks beforehand? Were they wasting your time? Yeah, it starts to be able to, self-select up here a little bit, which then leads you to the right way to engage and nurture people, where you have to align everybody around growth. And then there are new ways to chatting with people today. I think that this one is probably the future. We're making some big bets there. And then I would say that this is what most people want to do today, even with that decently high ticket item, is I don't want to talk to you. I just want my questions answered. And then this is what we were talking about of having some sort of system to actually track and analyze is, for example, if we know that we created, call this 500 contacts, and we created 50 deals that actually purchased, how many contacts do we have to create to get 100 deals? Yeah, I guess off that number, 1,100, right? 1,000 to get to 100 deals. And then what you can start to do is go, oh, you know what? I think that the numbers from created to actually new deals set up in our pipeline should be a lot better. What are you guys doing on the phone? What are you talking about? Are you calling the right people? Because now as a business, you get to start tweaking all these little things that happen in your sales process based upon metrics, not gut feeling anymore. And then inside of HubSpot CRM, all this is free. If you guys have other systems, I would just encourage you to start looking at these numbers. So you could say, okay, if I have one salesperson right now who's closing 50 deals and they're at max capacity, can I justify hiring another salesperson to try to double this because I need that person to do exactly what that salesperson 1 is doing? This is growth and scale. If you don't have the metrics for your business, you will not be able to do that. Any questions on that? Okay. How are we doing? We're doing okay? All right. And then this is just a little prime example as you think about your own startups and your own business. These like our sales folks down here, small, medium business, mid-market, enterprise salespeople, you can interchange these with channels. So if you're a B2C, you could say social or organic or paid, whatever it may be. And then you start to look at where the money's actually coming in. There's so much consistency in mid-market. If we hired another salesperson, would it stay at that level? And if so, can we hire a lot of salespeople to grow and scale our acquisition at this point? Or in the enterprise space, can we take the brain of Rep A and actually have them teach the rest of the company? HubSpot did that. There was one sales rep in HubSpot out of about 500 sales reps that was performing 3 times better than everybody else. Out of 500 reps, one guy was performing 3 times better. We're like, dude, what are you doing? So we said, Steve, get in front of the whole company and tell them exactly what you're doing. Whoop! It elevated the whole entire company, which then enabled us to hire more people, build the right systems, document it in a wiki, and then be able to scale. So now we're into the last piece of the customer success, and I have only really maybe 1 or 2 takeaways here. Go through your own onboarding flow. See what it's like. Shopify talks about this all the time. Every week they have a new member of their team go through the onboarding experience, and they just watch what happens. Because it's all about getting to that first aha moment as quickly as you can in any business, because that's what creates this sense of value, which in one easy to view chart might look like this, the customer journey. Somebody buys your product or your service or your good. As soon as they use it or get it or wear it, is that moment like a yes? Or does it take 30 days or 60 days to actually get the value? You got to get to that first moment of value and then continue to try to add to it. So when we talk about that onboard, educate, and grow, we can interchange it with onboard, adoption, and renewal or upsell, where once people see the first value, keep it going. Don't stop. Don't stop there. And then with these people that are really happy in renewing and upselling, we're going to ask these people if they have any friends that are just like them. Hell yeah, we are. Because this is where you start to create a beautiful ecosystem of referrals, of networks, of people really being happy because they're observing value in your business. And then a really easy way to measure that, has anybody heard of Net Promoter Score? Who hasn't heard of Net Promoter Score? Okay. You could do an employee Net Promoter Score or even a customer Net Promoter Score. And the formula is, it's a scale of 0 to 10, and you ask one question. How likely are you to refer a friend or a colleague to our software? Or for employee net promoter score, how likely are you to refer somebody to work at our company? 0 to 6 is not very good. 7 to 8, we got to get a little bit higher up. This is where you probably spend most of your time with your customers, the ones who are in here who see a little bit of value but not enough. And then the 9s and 10s, you ask those people for referrals all day. And a good score is anywhere between 30 and 100. And the way you calculate it is the percentage of promoters, how many people are in this bucket, minus the percentage of detractors. If you're not getting net promoter score on your customers today, you probably should. One simple email, one question, one form, whatever it may be. Because those people with really high satisfaction of your service, what are you going to do? See if they can refer more people like them. The ones that are passives, this is where you spend all your time in the services. Try to get them to be promoters. And the detractors, they might be lost causes because they already say, I don't see value, I'm done. So we have to figure out how to better service these people. And so at that point, we're done with the presentation from sales, marketing, services. The takeaway with sales is maniacally track things and have a system that you can then actually run the process through. With marketing, it's think about how do we drive more traffic and eyeballs, pick channels, create content with our formula of great content plus format plus channel. And then with services is figure out how to move those passives up to promoters, and maybe actually even work with your sales team to stop signing up those people that really aren't good customers. That's why you have to align your whole entire company around growth. And the benefit of being a startup is who wears all the hats? You do. It's a small team. You get to listen to your customers, market to them, help them, service them, before you ever add any more people into this formula that is your growth flywheel. So we'll stop there for a second. Any questions on anything we've just talked about?
For the sales funnel that you mentioned, pretty much of the guy going up to the sales team and telling him what he did, that sounds great in like a B2B situation. If you're doing B2C and you're relying on Google Ads and stuff like that, do you have any recommendations towards that?
Yeah, I can actually show you what I'm doing with my necklace company to give you a little bit of insight. This is where instead of figuring out who is performing best, you figure out what is performing best. And by what, you can get it as granular as a channel or even an ad. So I use HubSpot to power like my marketing. I use WordPress and WooCommerce to actually drive the sales. But now what's kind of neat is like at this point I can see how much traffic I'm getting, how many leads I'm generating, and of those leads, who's turning into customers. But more specifically, when we go in to look at like our analytic breakdown, and if we do this for this year, what's kind of neat now is I now have the conversions of all of the channels. Let me zoom in a little bit here. Right? So for B2C, what you should be listening for is where am I generating the leads and what are my offers? So for example, my company, one thing that I tried is I have about 4,000 followers on Instagram, not a lot, but I wasn't able to know who those people on Instagram were that were actually coming by my website. And I wanted to connect that dot. Who's following me and who's actually interested in my products? So I said, I'm going to put together a giveaway. Anybody that signs up on this form and enters their email address, meaning that I've captured them as a lead, I'll pick one random winner on December 10th. So I had about 40 people fill out from social. I gave one person a necklace, but 10 of the other people bought. Because what I did is I said, oh, sorry you didn't win the giveaway, but we want to give you 25% off anyways for being an awesome person. So now what do I need to do in this equation? Post more content on social. And now what's crazy is per each channel, we can now see exactly the metrics. Where am I going to spend my time? Instagram. Right? And then what's also a little crazy, and this is where I just nerd out a little bit, is I've been trying to experiment in different ad platforms to see what's working and what's not working. I know Google ads for me really suck. And I'm spending a decent amount of money in it, and this is just over the last 30 days. I've probably spent $200 on Google ads and got one customer. That's not a good ROI. But look at my retargeting on via Facebook and Instagram. People that visit your website, that then you have a pixel, a Facebook pixel, so you can track and talk to them in all these other channels. Anybody that's viewed a serotonin necklace page, I'm just saying, here, buy this. Here's 10% off, 20% off, incentivize, which is now resulting in crazy ROI. So now I have my formula. I can just put as much money into this as I want, because that's my channel. Crazy. Once you figure out, this is honestly the concepts that we were just trying to walk through at a higher level. When you find what works and you know it's scalable, put more money into it. Double down, because that's your growth engine. You have to first find your channel market fit. You might build a kick-ass product and know that people want it, but then if you know that they want it, where are they finding you to get it? Channel market fit. Content, channel, format. Add more money into it. It's easy to spend money when you make money, right? What other questions do we have on this stuff? And we can go through, we have 7 minutes left until the hour, and then I guess we can stay for much longer. If you guys want to go through any practical examples of your website, I'd love to just, see what we can come up with.
Yeah, I had a problem. Like when we've been on HubSpot, like we tried to set up all that stuff, including like the live chat, and it didn't, like we had problems getting it running. And then when we tried to call support, it just put me to like a general inbox. So like that was the biggest problem with HubSpot is like I don't have time to read tutorials, right? And I'll send one of my juniors to look at it, but they're gonna run into the same problem. So how would you suggest we using your product or Salesforce? Salesforce I heard is even harder. To set up that, it's not easy. When we try to go into it, you got to put in your Google ad code and you got to test it, and then sometimes permissions it doesn't come into HubSpot and all that stuff. So
it's a great question.
How do you get around that?
Do you want to talk after about it, and we can see if we can try to set it up right?
Cool, but yeah, just in general for everyone
Yeah.
who runs into getting that up was
The-
we pretty much weren't able to do that. How would you suggest a company that's a startup that has like 3 people and regardless of that interface, if it doesn't work, how do you get help?
That's where contact my team. One of us will help you,
Okay.
because it should be all self-onboarded.
Sure.
But if something's not working, let me know.
Yeah.
And then we'll jump on a 30-minute call and troubleshoot it with you guys. We also have a services team solely dedicated to startups.
Okay, see, that's good. I didn't
Yeah.
know that. I just called the general line.
Yeah.
Got endless voicemail.
We have the fast route for all of you guys, because we want to get you guys set up right, because we know that early onsets, it's so important to make sure that you do it right, which is why our whole program exists for you. Yeah.
So you mentioned that like customers now do, I think it was like 95% of their research before even contacting you, and that makes sense for things like, say, car insurance. I go to Google, I'm like, I need car insurance, search, and then I can do my research. But what if you have a product where it's like, it's pretty new in the market and there's still like not any awareness around it? It's like, I don't even know that it's possible to have automated build customer reports, and it just kind of the AI takes care of it for me. Like, I don't know what to type into Google. I don't even know that that's a problem that I should be solving.
Right. So you have a really interesting use case here. What else are people searching for that might lead them along the path of this?
Possibly just like straight up reporting tools.
Yeah. So maybe reporting tools. Specifically, what tools are you integrating with to help them do reporting?
It's actually we're integrating with their their on-premise data. So
Okay.
whatever data like from Excel or databases or whatever they.
Okay. So maybe it's as simple as your top of the funnel, just to gain awareness, is maybe you have a how-to article, like that content piece that we're talking about, how to use Excel to do better reporting. That has nothing to do with your company, but it has very much to do with what that person who might be a target persona is already searching. So this is that whole concept of, let's go back into here. This awareness, if you stink at awareness, it doesn't matter how good you are at all this stuff. because nobody's finding you, right? So in this awareness bucket, let's find where people are living. Let's truly find where they're going. I guess here's a good use case. With my necklace, people are going on Etsy and searching for these things. I wasn't on Etsy, and as soon as I put my product on Etsy, I like doubled sales in a day, because that's where people live. With let's try to do it with like sales folks. People who are probably trying to learn how to do more sales, they actually go to YouTube to watch how do you do sales. Who here's done that? I still do it all the time. So if you create a how to do sales or whatever it may be, how to use Salesforce, you'll pull these people in. So what are people potentially searching in your industry that you can just create top of the funnel content?
And then once you've created this content or written this blog and you do your SEO, do you kind of leave it up to the gods of Google, or is there something proactive you can do to get to drive people to your content?
I would say do a little bit of this. Facebook's algorithm, if you guys haven't played with Facebook ads, is scary good. They have this lookalike feature. You basically build an audience and say, I just want you to put this in front of everybody that looks like this.
And that's just to drive them to your content, not necessarily to buy your product, but to drive them to your content.
And then what's your call to action?
Ask for more, or set up a discovery call or something like that.
Maybe that might be a little bit down here.
Or maybe download a paper.
Download a paper. Or have live chat. There are so many ways to talk to people today, and you just don't know what they want to communicate, or the vehicle in which they want to communicate with you on. So give them a couple different options. Yeah.
So for us, we're targeting C-level executives, and our goal is to get people to schedule a demo. So right now we're finding that events, cold calling, and LinkedIn are the best ways to do that. But we're actually finding that email marketing has not been working for us at all. We're a small team, so would you suggest just kind of stopping that completely and trying things like InMail, or investing more in paid search? So should we drop it or just keep doing it?
If it doesn't take too much time, right? I think this is just the challenge of a startup, is you have to find that channel market fit. Email is a channel. I don't think email's dead yet. It's on its way to becoming less productive. It already is less productive. But what other ways can we get people to find you that are these C-levels? Or this is what I experienced when I was in sales at HubSpot. What would happen is there was a hierarchy of the way businesses were formatted, and I was working with really big businesses. We had the CEO, we had maybe a VP, we had a director, manager, and then coordinators. The people that were coming by HubSpot and downloading how to do SEO guides were these people. But who paid? These people. So even though these people were coming by and giving me their information, I wanted to call them and get in and out as quickly as possible. And what was I looking for here?
Who to go up to.
And
What their buying process is.
yeah, I was really looking for one thing and one thing only. What's the pain that these executives that you want to work with, what's the pain that they have?
Just not enough IT support to actually implement things like what Flybits does.
Okay. And so are there these folks in the company down here that are supposed to be supporting?
Yes.
And is your value proposition making these people more effective or automating more of the system? Or both.
In the end.
So what I was finding in our sales process was these people were what we call champions. These people will do anything it takes to get the deal done with you. But these are the people that you have to convince and actually get their buy-in. A lot of content's consumed in this area. These people are way more worried about strategic business decisions. So you have to work with these folks to then say, we can't continue our conversation anymore without these. Otherwise, we can't help solve your pain. So what I was finding was some of the best opportunities in sales was spend your time here, but only a little bit of it. These people would help you and you would help them because that's who you're solving for in a lot of cases, and say, in order to take the next step, we have to get these people on the call. We can't set up another call without them. Do you want to do that? I can't. Why not? And then that's a negative persona if they can't. Or yes, absolutely. Great, who should we speak with? So this is another way to think about how to organize a sales structure is who are your champions, who are your influencers, who are your decision makers, and how do they work together?
I think we were thinking that email marketing would be more effective. All the contacts that we have are C-level VP, and it would be more effective if we were targeting like senior managers and managers.
Maybe this is your email marketing channel fit, who you're just trying to work with to get buy-in and interest. And these are the people that you're really prospecting into to say, hey, I know that Greg and Sarah need a lot of help here because they've told us. Can we set up time to discuss how we can help your business with X, Y, and Z? And then then you're like 5 steps ahead, and you're not crawling to try to get some people on the call. So that might be one way.